Hi, Stephen Bruck from Messianic Moment. Today is Friday, November 3rd, 2017, and tonight starts Shabbat. That means tomorrow we have a Torah reading. The Parashah this week is Veyara. This is the time when Abraham is sitting in front of a tree and three men appear to him, the Lord and two angels. And they tell him that next year at this time, he's going to have a son through Sarah. Sarah hears this, she laughs because she says, I'm old, I'm past, and he's really old. How's that going to happen? But, of course, God says it's going to happen. It does. And the child is named Yitzchak in Hebrew, which in English is translated to Isaac, but in Hebrew means laughing because Sarah laughed. The angels also tell Abraham that they're going to check out Sodom and Gomorrah because the sins cried up to heaven. The angels go ahead. God stays behind and says, I should tell Abraham. He's going to be a great man. I should let him know what's going to happen. And when he tells Abraham, Abraham's thinking, Lot's there. I better do something. So he starts asking God if God's really going to destroy every place because there might be some righteous men there. You know, what if there are 50 righteous men, 50 righteous men? Would God destroy all of Sodom and kill the righteous with the unrighteous? And God says, no, if I can find 50 righteous men, then I'll leave the place alone. And then Abraham, and you're not going to like this, but I'm Jewish, I can say it. Abraham Jews them down to 10. If there are 10 righteous men, will you destroy the place? And God says, all right, no. For 10 righteous men, I'll save it. But das ist alles. I'm out of here. The next portion of the Parsha is when the angels go to Sodom, and Lot invites them to stay with him, which was the typical activity you would do back then. If you saw people, strangers in the town, and they didn't have a place to stay, you would offer it. The men go to Lot's house, and then all the men of Sodom come and say, bring him out, Lot, we're going to have sex with him. Lot says, no, don't do this. It's a terrible thing. Look, I've got two daughters who are virgins. Do what you want with them, but leave these men alone. They're guests in my house. Now, would a father send out his two virgin daughters to be gang raped? I wouldn't, but this was what it was like back then, and we're not going to go there. That's a different discussion that I won't even get close to. Anyway, the men say, no, we want you and the men, and we want you now because you think you're so righteous, we're going to teach you a lesson also. Well, the angels strike everyone blind. That morning they tell Lot, get everything that you own and get the heck out of here. Get your tuchus out of Sodom because it's going to be destroyed. Enough's enough, you know. So Lot says, all right, but they didn't really want to leave. So the angels end up pulling them out, literally. And Lot's wife was so attached to the sinfulness of Sodom, she turned around to look at it. I really don't want to leave. And, well, we know what happens to her. Pillar of salt. Lot ends up being saved. He goes to a cave, and his two daughters say, we need to keep our father alive. All the men that would have married us are dead. Nobody's going to want us here. We live in caves, you know. So let's get him drunk and sleep with him. So they each sleep with him on different nights. And they both get pregnant. The oldest daughter is the mother of Moab, and the youngest is the mother of Ammon. Moabites, Ammonites, both traditional enemies of the Jewish people. Except the Moabites did have Ruth, and she turned out okay. She was the ancestor of Yeshua, the Mashiach. So that worked out. But the next portion is we see Abraham is settled down now, and Ishmael, his first son, is now picking on Yitzchak, his second son, to the point where Sarah says, get Hagar and that kid out of here. So Abraham does what his wife wants, and he sends him into the desert, but God saves him in the desert and makes a great nation out of Ishmael because Abraham did ask God to look after him because he was his first son. Abraham loved him. Now we have Yitzchak, who's older. Most people think he was probably in his 30s by the time this happened, but we come to chapter 22, the end of this Parsha reading, and this is known as the Akedah or Akedah. It is the binding of Isaac, and it is a very messianic portion of the Tanakh, and it is the part that actually is read traditionally on Rosh Hashanah. And I'm sure you all know, Abraham hears from God. God says, take your son, your only son, and sacrifice him to me. Take him someplace, I'll tell you where you go. They go there, they're at Mount Moriah. At the last minute, God stops Abraham, and they have a ram in the bush, and they sacrifice the ram. And that's the end of the Parsha. By the way, just a quick note. The reason shofars are almost always made out of a ram's horn is to honor the ram that was sacrificed. Now, what I want to talk about is not all the really good stuff in here. I want to talk about the fact that angels appear to us and they say that they are the angel of the Lord, but sometimes they talk as if they are the Lord. You know, what's with this? It's been a very big argument that I've seen over and over the years about, was it the Lord, was it an angel? And let's take a look at a few passages just to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. Genesis 16:11. The angel of the Lord also said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery." Okay, here we have an angel talking. But look at Judges 2:1. The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, "I brought you up out of Egypt and led you into the land I swore to give to your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you." So that sounds like God, doesn't it? And also Genesis 22:11 to 12. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." So when Abraham was up on Mount Moriah and about to kill Isaac, the angel of the Lord calls out to stop him. But then that same speech, it ends up the angel saying, "You have not withheld from me your son, your only son," from me. I don't think that would be the angel. That would have to be God, because the angel might have stopped Abraham, but it was God who commanded Abraham to sacrifice, and sacrifice to God, not to the angel. So clearly here we have another case where, is it the angel or is it God? Or did they switch off? I don't know. Let's look at one other example before I get into what this all means to me, and that is when probably one of the most important times an angel ever appeared to somebody in Genesis, when the angel appeared to Moses. Let's take a look. Exodus 3:2 through 6. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, "I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up." When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, "Moses, Moses." And Moses said, "Here I am." "Do not come any closer," God said. "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Then he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. Once again, the angel of the Lord appeared as a flame in the bush, but after being told it's a holy place, the bush now says, "I am the Lord your God. I am God." So did the angel and God switch off? Is the angel just in the bush and God speaking separately? This is the stuff that we need to talk about. And it's a big thing. I've seen many arguments about the angel of the Lord talking for the Lord. Is it the Lord? Is it an angel? Are they there together? And I have a pretty simple explanation, and you can agree or disagree. But what I think is that an angel of the Lord is sent, and he speaks for God. And when speaking for God, the angel of the Lord is literally quoting what God told him to say, and doing it, as I said, literally, meaning not saying, "God said for me to tell you this," but "God says this. I told you this. I did that. This is what I say." Even though it's an angel, he's speaking on behalf of God as if he was God, but he's not. He's an angel. But God sent the angel to speak on his behalf. And I reckon this back to Yeshua in John, saying, "You see me, you see the Father. I only say what the Father says." I think many people take that same idea that it is God, not Yeshua speaking, or more correctly, that Yeshua is God the Father. The people that believe that Yeshua is God the Father, one and the same, have used many times where Yeshua speaks as if he was God. I believe Yeshua is speaking only what God tells him to speak, no differently than the way the angel spoke on God's behalf in the Tanakh. The angel would come, it was an angel of the Lord, a servant, a messenger, speaking as if he was God, but he's not God. Okay, God empowers them to say things as if it's God. It's basically a direct quote, but they don't have their little angel fingers go, and God tells me to tell you, I am the Lord your God. No, it's just that they speak on God's behalf. And when Yeshua said, you see me, you see the Father, basically, people take that to say that Yeshua is God, but he's not. He's doing what God told him to do, the exact way God tells him. I mean, if I have a little puppet, all right, little Senor Winces, right? Hello, I'm Hello. Senor Winces, for those of you who are really old, or you're young, you won't remember that. Anyway, the little puppet speaks. Now, if Yeshua does only what the Father tells him to do, says only what the Father tells him to say, then he's like the angels in the Tanakh. He's appearing as a messenger, but he's speaking as if he is God. But he's not God. And the angels were not God. They were speaking as if they were God, only because God said, this is what I want you to say exactly. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Or you did not hold your son from me. And that is what really is, I think, the most simple and logical explanation for the confusion about, was it an angel of the Lord or was it the Lord? Because in those few times, like we saw with Abraham, the Lord appeared to Abraham, but there were 3 men. And the 2 men continued to Sodom. And during the time in Sodom, when we're reading about that in tonight's Parsha, then they didn't ever take on that single person position. They spoke as if they were there as angels. They never said that they were God or even implied that they were God. And that was clearly angels. The angel that stopped Balaam never really spoke as if he was God. He said, I was blocking your path. I wanted to keep you from going there. And that's true, because God said, go down and block him. So the angel is speaking on his own behalf. I was here. I would have killed you. You know, even though God told him. And then he says, you must say everything that I tell you to say. Well, the angel could have been the one speaking to Balaam instead of God, on behalf of God. It doesn't necessarily mean that that was God. So this is my little thing. I believe that when we read in the Bible, whether the Old Covenant, the New Covenant, because it's really all one Bible, folks. All one Bible. All one God, all one story, all one Messiah. When we read about angels talking as angels and then talking as God, it is not God. It is the angel of the Lord. Unless it says, the Lord said, and God said, then we know it's God. And there are places where it's very clear, and God said. But when we see an angel of the Lord appeared and said, and then all of a sudden the angel of the Lord starts speaking as if he is God, I believe it's just the angel speaking on behalf of God, quoting exactly what God told him to say, even to the point of taking on the single person position instead of speaking third person. Instead of saying, God said this, God said that, the angel says, I'm the angel of the Lord, but I did this, I did that. And that's it. I think it's a simple explanation. I think it explains things without being dishonoring to God, and that's how I think. Which hurts when I do it, because, you know, the wood smells and everything. It's really painful. But every time I say I think, my wife says, don't do that. It's not good for you. And she's right, because she's my wife. I'm a Jewish husband. I don't think. She does it for me. Anyway, little humor. So, very, very little. Anyway, that was it. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for listening. Please like the video. And also, even more important, go to my website, messianicmoment.com. Like the website. Subscribe so you can continue to hear this. If you like what I say, please share it with others. Share it on your timeline. And look in my website. Look for my books. I believe that I'm doing what honors God. And if you agree, then please help get me out there. I appreciate it. So, Shabbat Shalom. May God bless.